I echoed her words, my voice steady despite the sting of my nails digging into my palm beneath the desk. More of a team player? Across from me, Helen McBride, my manager, sat in her corner office with a view of downtown Chicago. Mid-50s, her blazer too snug, her smile overly polished, she leaned back with a syrupy tone. Camille, you're brilliant, no question. But Rachel? She's got charm. People gravitate to her. She's easier. Not more skilled, not more accomplished, just easier. At 41, I'd been with Westlake Strategies for 6 years, having left a teaching career at 35 to dive headfirst into the corporate world. I'd poured everything into it, late-night reports, last-minute pitches, and rescuing client accounts no one else could salvage. I'd doubled our Midwest portfolio, revamped the training system, and cut nearly $2 million in operational waste. Yet Rachel, with her curated lunch selfies and girl boss quotes, was getting the promotion. Helen shuffled papers, waiting for my gratitude, my graciousness. Instead, I slid a crisp white envelope across her desk. I appreciate the feedback, I said, my smile calm. Here's my resignation, effective 2 weeks from today. Helen's polished facade cracked. Camille, hold on. Let's discuss this. No need, I replied. You were clear and I'm focused on results. That's why I'm leaving. See, what she didn't know, what no one had noticed, was that while Rachel was busy charming, I'd been quietly building my own leadership development firm. Fully registered, steadily growing, and profitable since Q2. I hadn't lost today. I'd simply outgrown the room. As I left Helen's office, a shift rippled through the River North floor of Westlake Strategies. Heads turned, conversations hushed. Rachel was probably already picturing her girl boss poster above my old desk. But I moved with quiet purpose, returning to my workspace as if it were just another Monday. Tucked inside that resignation envelope was a second document, one that would make Helen choke on her artisan latte. The next 2 weeks were pure theater. Rachel glided through the bullpen, latte in hand, basking in her imagined spotlight. On day 4, she leaned over my cubicle wall, her lips curled in a smug half-smile. Camille, I hope you're not too upset. I know you really wanted that spot. I met her gaze briefly, all while backing up 3 years of metrics, training manuals, and workflow optimizations, not to steal, but to document. Every dollar saved, every system I'd built, every success tied to my team. No hard feelings, Rachel, I said, my smile cool. You'll do great. She walked away, pleased, oblivious to the foundation those results rested on. 3 years earlier, out of frustration, I'd started developing my own adaptive team performance software, on my own time, with my own resources. Last week, the patent was approved. That second page in my resignation detailed its impact. Millions in revenue and retention directly tied to my intellectual property. If this story resonates with you, like it's your own, stay tuned. Camille's next steps will show that walking away isn't defeat. It's a step up, exposing Helen's promotion decision for the farce it was. 1 week later, an email landed in my inbox from Jared Lewis, CEO of Architect Solutions, Westlake Strategies' top competitor. Over coffee, he offered more than a job. He offered equity, autonomy, and a stake in the future. Sliding a contract across the table, he said, "We've been waiting for someone like you, Camille. Someone who knows outcomes, not optics. Build legacies." His tone was steady, sincere. As I signed the partnership agreement, a weight lifted. This was recognition. Not applause for appearances, but respect for substance. On my final day at Westlake Strategies, as I handed in my access badge, Helen called me into her glass-walled office one last time. Her usual polished demeanor had fractured, her voice unsteady. "Camille, we need to talk about the report you attached to your resignation," she said, holding up the printed document with tense fingers. "Why didn't you tell us about this platform you built?" she asked. I sat across from her, smoothing the hem of my navy blazer. "I did," I replied evenly. 3 proposals over 2 years. You dismissed them all, prioritizing interpersonal chemistry across departments. Her eyes scanned the pages, her face paling as she took in the data. Operational savings, automated workflows, predictive project forecasting. "And this is patented?" she whispered. I nodded. "Filed last fall, fully approved. And I've accepted an equity partnership at Architect Solutions. They're already planning to scale it firm-wide." Helen's breath hitched. "Architect? Camille, no! They're our biggest competitor in the Midwest. What about loyalty?" I tilted my head. "Loyalty? You mean when you chose Rachel's charm over my contributions? Or when you ignored my proposals because I didn't organize enough happy hours?" She opened her mouth, but I didn't wait. "If you'd valued results over office politics, we wouldn't be here." Desperate, she blurted, "We'll match their offer, senior vice president. Just stay." I shook my head. It was never about the title. It was about being valued. As I walked out, I heard her frantically dialing behind me, but the damage was done. If you believe respect is earned, not begged for, and want to see Camille's next steps, stay tuned for the chapter where she transforms from underestimated to unstoppable. The patent was mine. The ink on the partnership agreement? Dry. And Rachel? She was about to learn that charisma opens doors, but only substance keeps them from closing. That evening, as I packed the last of my things, I found a sticky note on my monitor. "Sad to see you go. Stay in touch. Rachel?" I smirked, crumpled it, and tossed it into the trash. She'd hear my name again soon enough. The entire industry would. My first day at Architect Solutions felt like stepping into a new world. Gone were the beige walls and passive-aggressive Slack threads. My office overlooked Lake Michigan, with floor-to-ceiling windows, sleek design, and a nameplate reading, "Camille Bennett, Partner, Strategy and Systems Innovation." But the real change wasn't the title, it was the respect. Jared Lewis called an all-hands meeting to introduce me, not with a generic onboarding speech, but by telling my story. Jared Lewis stood before the Architect Solutions team, detailing the platform I'd developed, its proven impact, and how it was reshaping firm operations. "Camille Bennett isn't here to fill a role," he said. "She's here to pioneer a new era. Her work has saved millions. It's brilliant, and this is just the start." At Westlake Strategies, I'd been a shadow behind the scenes. At Architect Solutions, I was the architect in the spotlight. 3 months later, a pivotal moment arrived. During a strategy workshop, my phone buzzed with a message from Tariq Henderson, one of the sharp minds still at Westlake. "Check the news. Big story just dropped." In my office, I pulled up the headline, "Westlake Strategies loses 30% of clients after Q2 systems breakdown." The article was scathing: missed deadlines, ballooning budgets, and 3 flagship clients gone. It described Westlake's systems as fragmented, outdated, and reliant on undocumented processes. One quote struck deep from Thomas Kwan, CEO of Terra Nova Solutions, a former client of mine. "Service has collapsed. We once trusted Westlake with enterprise-level integrations. Now, they can't even meet basic timelines. It's like the backbone of their operations vanished." I smiled. That backbone was me. The system they'd undervalued, dismissed, and left to someone who couldn't sustain it. Another message from Tariq. "Rachel's having a meltdown in the break room." Leaning back, sunlight glinting off Lake Michigan into my office, I felt no need for revenge. I had results. If you've ever been overlooked, sidelined, or passed over for someone flashier but less capable, stay tuned. Camille's ascent is just beginning, and the next chapter will shake the industry. Rachel had coasted on buzzwords and smiles, but now her facade was crumbling. Helen, who bet on optics over ability, was watching her choice unravel in real time. Meanwhile, at Architect Solutions, my platform wasn't just functioning, it was transforming. Project timelines dropped by 52%, client satisfaction soared to record highs, and operational KPIs were stellar. Jared had greenlit a full rollout across divisions, and 3 Fortune 100 companies were in talks to license my system. They underestimated me. Now they were scrambling to keep up. 6 months after leaving Westlake, I walked into my architect office one crisp Thursday to find Jared by my desk, holding a folded Chicago business ledger. "Have you seen this?" he asked, lifting the paper. The headline read, "Westlake Strategies announces emergency restructure amid mass departures and system collapse." I nodded. I saw. They're tearing it all down. Jared's eyes narrowed. They're admitting they mishandled their talent. They tried rebuilding your platform in-house, but they didn't grasp its foundation. They thought it was just code, I said, already knowing. But it was the logic behind it that made it scalable. Jared's slow, knowing smile mirrored the satisfaction of watching a long game play out. Jared Lewis's words carried weight as he announced, "The board voted unanimously to promote you, Camille. Starting next week, you'll be Executive Vice President of Strategic Innovation. You haven't just enhanced our systems, you've redefined our future." A quiet warmth bloomed in my chest. This was true recognition. Not praise for being likable, but respect for creating something tangible. Later that afternoon, as Chicago's skyline shimmered gold in the sunset, an unexpected email arrived from Helen McBride. Subject line, "Apology." "I assume you've heard about Westlake," she wrote. "I was wrong. Dismissing your work was the worst mistake of my career. The board knows now what you built and what we lost. I resigned last week. Rachel stepped down a month ago. Deliverables, it turns out, don't bend to charm." I stared at the screen, a flicker of emotion crossing my face. Validation had arrived, unasked for, but poetic in its timing. Helen's email continued, "I know it's too late to undo what happened, but you were right. Results matter. I wish I'd seen it sooner. Best, Helen." I read it twice. Once, her words might have stirred something. Late acknowledgement might have softened old scars. But that time had passed. In my corner office at Architect Solutions, sunlight glinted off the glass frame of my patent certificate. Behind me hung a polished plaque from our record-breaking quarter. On the shelf, a fresh Forbes issue lay open to a feature naming me among the top 10 women reshaping tech innovation. Helen's message wasn't a reckoning, it was a footnote. I clicked reply and typed, "Thank you for your message. You're right. Results matter. I wish you well." I hit send, then surveyed my office. Every inch, every shred of respect in this space was earned. Not gifted, not bargained for, but built. The next morning, I called a full team meeting. The room filled quickly with engineers, analysts, and designers, not one there to posture, but because they cared. As we settled, I stood. "Before we dive into our next major rollout," I said, "I want to share a story, not about strategy or code, but about value, recognizing it in others and never letting anyone define your worth." Heads nodded, eyes focused. They leaned in, not just to my words, but to their weight. They saw that our company wasn't fueled by image or ego, but by integrity and courage. The belief that quiet strength paired with purpose sparks movements. If you've ever been undervalued or overlooked, stay tuned. Camille's journey is far from over, and what's next will redefine what's possible. That evening, driving home past Westlake Strategies, I paused at a light. Their once bold logo, etched into the building, looked faded, worn by time and consequence. A for lease sign flickered weakly in the fourth-floor window. Downsizing, again. I felt no smugness, only gratitude. Gratitude that they hadn't seen my worth. Gratitude that they'd dismissed what I built. Their oversight had pushed me to create something greater than I'd ever imagined. Their rejection had set me free to build something greater. Sometimes, the greatest gifts arrive disguised as dismissal. Sometimes, being relentlessly focused on results is what makes you unstoppable. And sometimes, the best response to being underestimated is to create something so undeniable they can't look away. My phone buzzed, a message from Tariq Henderson lighting up the screen. "Westlake's board is asking about you. They're wondering if you'd consider returning as CEO." I stared at the words, then typed slowly. "Thanks, Tariq, but I'm right where I belong." True success isn't about going back to prove others wrong. It's about proving yourself right. It's about standing firm in your worth, even when no one else sees it, and rising for your own purpose, not their approval. As I pulled into the garage of my Lincoln Park townhome, my thoughts turned to the countless Camilles out there, quiet professionals delivering exceptional work, yet overlooked because they don't play politics or shout the loudest. Maybe my story would reach one of them. Maybe it would be the spark they need to stop seeking validation and start building without it. Rejection isn't a dead end, it's a redirection. You take the silence, the dismissal, and you turn it into momentum, into systems, platforms, and legacies that prove too much was always just code for beyond their grasp. That night, in my home office, reviewing global licensing proposals for the platform I'd once built in secret, a deep peace settled over me. Above my desk, framed in sleek black, hung the quote Helen once hurled as criticism: "You're too focused on results." She wasn't wrong. That focus had carried me here, to leadership, to innovation, to a clarity I'd always been destined to claim, on my own terms. If you've followed this far, thank you. This story isn't just mine. It's for everyone who's been told they're too much, too serious, or not enough in all the wrong ways. If you see yourself in my journey, share your story in the comments. Tell me where you are, because I know the isolation of doing the work, delivering results, and still being passed over. I've lived it. You're not invisible, you're not imagining it, and you're not asking too much when you seek respect for what you contribute. If this story resonated, consider subscribing, not just to see what's next, but to join a community that values quiet strength, earned success, and resilience without fanfare. We're building something for people like us. My advice? Stop waiting for permission. Stop shrinking to fit their comfort. Don't let their failure to see your value dim your belief in it. Turn their doubt into fuel, their silence into space to create. Keep showing up, keep building. One day, they'll see what they lost, but by then, you'll be somewhere better, somewhere you built yourself. This is your sign. This is your moment. You don't have to prove them wrong. You just have to prove yourself right. And I'll be right here cheering you on.